Transition to Adulthood webinar. I'd like to introduce Debbie Johansson, the United Angels Foundation Transition Specialist. Debbie has over 15 years of working with individuals with different disabilities and special needs. She's started out in job placement, and she now works for the Alpine School District at ATEC, and she works for United Angels Foundation, helping parents navigate all of the different agencies as you transition from school into adulthood and all of the great things that that means. So Debbie, I'm going to turn the presentation over to you. Everyone else, if you could just mute your microphone and turn off your camera. At the end of Debbie's presentation, we will have time for a Q&A session. And since we have a pretty small group here today, when we get to the Q&A, we'll invite you to turn on your microphone or your camera if you'd like, and we'll have a discussion that way. So Debbie, the floor is yours.
Which one?
Chrome tab.
Sorry.
It's okay.
And
The transition.
and share.
Yeah. There you go.
Now, hi everybody. Am I on okay? I thought today that we would go ahead and do a nice overview of all the different services. I know this is an overwhelming task, and we might have parents that are listening in that could be at all different levels of transition. And so I will do a brief overview for each little organization and program, and then we can do in-depth questions where you are most interested. So I won't spend a long time on each one. Typically, I would go over a transition binder that I go into homes, and depending on where the family is in their transition process, I would go through the binder that they keep, a United Angels Transition to Adulthood binder. And I love doing that. I love meeting their angels, and I love seeing where their biggest concerns are. So my preference would be to meet one-on-one with families, because there are just no two families the same, I have found. So let's get started. Typically, I would not begin with DSPD. Thank you, Maya. But I am today, usually, because I don't know the... I'm good. I would, sorry, my helper. I would start with Social Security, but that starts at 18. So I'm going to start chronologically with DSPD. The reason is that can begin at birth. So everybody's a little gun shy about DSPD because they hear, oh, you'll never get services. And it is true, there is a wait list, but get on the wait list. Don't wait to get on the wait list. What do you get from DSPD? It's a lifesaver, guys. It really is. It is worth waiting for. It's worth getting, especially now during COVID. It has been very supportive to the families that have services. So I hope I can help you get on the wait list if you're a little concerned about the process. But what very generally it can provide is it can make your dreams come true. You can think of all the things that you would like for your child in the future, thinking ahead 30, 40 years even, and what kind of supports. My biggest pet peeve is when families say, well, they're just going to stay with me forever. I would like to know how that's going to happen, because a lot of the critical needs individuals have parents that are not able to care for them. And what a wonderful time to already have these services in place. So there's no scrambling around. It just comfortably moves over into the way you would like your child's life to look. So some of those services are respite, which is good care, safe care while you're doing other things, or like spending time with other family members, other children, grandchildren, aging parents, respite while you work. I have been using a lot of personal assistance, which is a different code than respite. Each one of these are different services that have different rates of pay for the employees. Personal assistance is more of a goal-oriented service where they can work on specific goals that would be specific for their needs. For an example, I had one of my daughter's goals to learn how to pay for herself when she goes out into the community. And personal assistance would be going out and doing some of the things that an average young adult would be doing. Going to a movie, going to a football game, having a pizza party with friends, doing the normal things that an average person would do. But my daughter would just show up and think people were going to pay for her. It just would never occur to her that she has to pay for herself. So we actually had the goal of working on, no, you need to pay for yourself. So her employees, which I don't call them employees because I think that's an unnatural way to have my daughter's life look like, oh, here's my employee. That's just odd. So we call them buddies, just that's our preference. So we have her buddies in advance help her understand how much the movie, say for instance, or bowling, how much would that cost and how much does she need to bring? What would that involve? And it took quite a while for her to get the hang of it. And that's a goal-oriented process using personal assistance. DSPD can do long-term supported employment. Vocational rehabilitation, which we will get to in a bit, will provide supports, but for a limited amount of time. It kind of depends on what they qualify for. But DSPD will provide what's called support independence and SWE, support work independence, and it is long-term job supports. And DSPD will, so that's, but you get supports for employment just for being on the wait list. So there's a few perks just because you're on the wait list. Vocational rehabilitation counselors love it when these individuals come to them for, and we'll talk about Voc-Rehab later in depth, but they love it if they right off the bat said, yes, we're on the DSPD wait list. Great. Then they know they can have long-term supports on the job. And they're a lot happier to write a plan for employment if they know there's something to help sustain that. My daughter is now, because she's 32, I just this year changed over to supported living. That's a different service. It pays the employees quite a bit more, and it covers just about anything my daughter needs, including driving her to and from work. It can help with her shopping, cleaning, all those different things, meal preparation, planning, all of those types of things, because she's getting older and I'm getting older. So we've kind of jumped into supported living, which can be done while she's living in my home. It can be done if she moves in with roommates or other family members or gets married. That can be facilitated all through supported living. That would be something that you would use when you don't need 24/7 help for your child. The 24/7, every time they move, would be more of the residential service, which is there is a staff with them all day and all night. So, but I didn't feel like my daughter really needed that. I think supported living would be sufficient for her. It can look any way you want it to look, honestly. And you can change. If you start one service and you can have maybe 2 services. I've had respite and personal assistance both. And then you can change as needs change and move differently because their lives don't freeze the same. So it changes, and they are very helpful with changing, and it's a wonderful. You need to get on that wait list. Something for those of you who are on DSPD services, some things that could be a little different this year. The legislature passed or had okayed the limited supports waiver, which is additional funding. The new fiscal year starts every July. So they okayed additional funding to have more people come off of the wait list onto the limited supports waiver, which is just about all of the different supports when they're living in your home, pretty much. There's a few other little things in there, but that was passed. However, because of the COVID situation and all of the additional funding they're giving families that are already on the DSPD services, I'm not sure how that will translate. There is another session that they have called that will be in the next week or two to decide how that funding can be spent because of COVID. The numbers have changed. And a very exciting new thing for those already on services is the caregiver's compensation, which is for the first time, the parents, the family can be paid to do those services. And there is an additional rate increase for all services during the COVID time, which they have deemed to be through the end of June. There's an increase in pay for all employees. So if you have the SAS program where you hire and do all the paperwork and you hire who you would like to, make sure that you put in the maximum pay rate so that they can get that COVID-19 rate increase. The caregiver's compensation has gotten off to a little bumpy start. I think the fiscal agents, those are the folks, there's 3 companies that can write those checks to your employees. They're a little overwhelmed right now. And if you are choosing to use the caregiver's compensation, just stay closely in contact with your support coordinator and allow her to go through the paperwork. You basically hire yourself with the full hiring packet and turn that into your fiscal agent. But it's been a little overwhelming for the fiscal agents right now. They're a little behind in writing those checks. Additional funding has been given to families that are using the caregiver's compensation significantly. So those of you waiting, be diligent and stay on it. Keep asking and reporting changes to your wait list supervisor. If you are not sure if you're on the wait list or if you're not sure who your wait list worker is, you can call the DSPD intake line. It's there on your screen, 877-568-0084, and say, who is my wait list supervisor? And when significant things and changes happen in your life, be sure to report that to that waitlist worker. And I will be happy to answer any other questions at the end about DSPD, but I just strongly urge you to get on that wait list. And if it's a little overwhelming, call me. I'm happy to do a one-on-one with you. I was on the committee that rewrote the application, so I've got it memorized. I could do it with my eyes shut. So give me a call if I can help, or do a full transition overview with you with a binder. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Social Security. Basically, Social Security is a federal support program. It's not state by state, or it's state by state, but it is in every state, I should say. To be eligible, before they're 18, then the parents' income and assets would count. But at age 18, and I would say on their birthday, you are going to start the process to have them basically be their own household. Then the parents' income and assets have no bearing on it. You do want to be sure if they are under 18, be careful that they do not have bank accounts in their own name or attached to anyone else's bank account that has assets over 2,000, because then they do not qualify to get Social Security. So you pretty much want to have a conversation with grandparents and other well-meaning individuals who would love to bestow money on your child. I have never had that luxury, but it has disqualified them and made them ineligible for Social Security. So be a little careful. In Utah, the maximum for 2020 that one could get on their own after age 18 is $783 a month. That is if you are charging rent and avoid in-kind support and maintenance, ISM. That will reduce that monthly $783 by 1/3. And support and maintenance, in my own words, means if you as a parent have been providing your child with food and shelter all of these years, and now 18, they're age 18, you're still providing it, then Social Security says, well, if you are supporting them, mom and dad, we do not also need to support them. So we will reduce their monthly benefit by 1/3. If you choose, however, to say, nope, not doing it, at age 18, they are an adult, and this means even if they are not verbal, if they're not really, you can say they need to pay rent. And I have in the binder, if we were to meet, or I can get it to you if you want to send me an email or text me, that would be fine, a rental agreement. And I give an example. There's one side for the child and one side for the parent, who now becomes the landlord. And my suggestions on how to fill it out, if you would like to, you don't have to, but your monthly amount would be decreased without the rental agreement. So it sounds very bizarre the first time you hear that. And people go, oh no, I'm not going to charge my child rent. I am, because I think it's my job to make sure that my child in the future can live without me. I don't want it to be a burden or difficult for those who will be looking after her when I am no more. I would prefer it to be an easier way to go, and I would love to see anyone try to live on $530 something, whatever the 1/3 reduction would cost. I'd like to see anybody else live on that amount. So I think it's my job as a parent to make sure that things are set up to be without me. My opinion. So when they do a rental agreement, they are then considered a separate household. Social Security often loses most things, including the rental agreement that you would send in. So make copies of it. You could put the date of the agreement as their 18th birthday and call on their 18th birthday to begin the process. You do not have to wait to be a legal guardian in order to begin Social Security on behalf of your child. You would then be called their representative payee. And your child, even if it's a signature with an X, they would need to agree that you would be their representative payee. If you are the representative payee, that would mean then that they should not have direct access to their own money. If they can budget their Social Security money on their own, then they don't need a representative payee. But then that often doesn't happen. So they can have money, you just have to oversee it. I sometimes get gift cards or a Visa card that's reloadable, so she doesn't have to carry cash with her all the time, but it does not give her access to her full Social Security amount of money, because I think it's important for me to be her representative payee, as most families would agree with. That is the Social Security number to the Provo Social Security Help Desk. They don't do in-person anymore, so things are a little bit different now, but you would still call them as your first step at age 18 on their birthday. If you start at 18, it could take 3, 4, 5 months for the full process to happen, and you will get a retro check back to the date of that first phone call. So it is to your benefit to do that first phone call at age 18. You will want to have your child with you when you call, and you would need to have their Social Security number with you. They will instruct you to start the process then online, which is A-OK. That's new and different since COVID. You will at some point make an appointment at that first phone call to have an interview over the phone with a Social Security claim specialist. There it is. So that is a basic little process of applying for Social Security. The next one is Medicaid. I'm going to do this at the perspective of around the transition age, 16, 17, 18. Unless you have significant medical needs, for instance, you have no other medical insurance, you can get Medicaid before Social Security, but I have found that clients, it's a little more difficult. You have to prove medical need. However, if you're okay on medical issues, and they're covered through the parent's work or insurance, if you wait until, and there's exceptions, I'm sorry, there are some exceptions, certainly. A lot of critical needs would be a different issue. So this is just sort of a general kind of outlook. But if you wait until they are applying for Social Security, you do have to apply separately in the state of Utah. Other states, it's automatic, but you do have a separate application for Medicaid. Now, say you don't really need, even at age 18, you don't really need the medical coverage, I would say go ahead and apply anyway. This is easy schmeezy. The application is not difficult at all. I would suggest doing it more of a paper application than online. I have found that families that do it online have a lot of glitches. So depending on where you live, there is a Medicaid outreach specialist in different school districts. You can chat with them individually. It's a little different during this COVID time, but in a perfect world, when this all settles down, I would have you take a paper application into the outreach specialist, and they will help you walk through it, and you're done in 15 minutes. It's not a difficult thing. And once they apply and are accepted, found eligible, I should say, for Social Security, it's boom, boom. Then it can sit, if you have other insurance, Medicaid can just be a secondary. It just sits there and does nothing. You do need Medicaid when they get DSPD, because that's who pays for all of the services, because DSPD is a Medicaid program. Some things that Medicaid pays for: doctor visits, home health. Home health can be kind of a nice thing if you're on the DSPD wait list, depending on your child's need. Home health can come in up to, I believe it's 13, 14 hours a week. They don't have to sponge bathe them or any of that. They can if that's what you need. But home health can come in and help them learn a healthy lifestyle. Like, hey, Susie, let's make a healthy snack. Susie, let's help you do your laundry. Susie, let's help you comb your hair or get dressed. And that can be a very helpful thing when you have other children or other responsibilities. You don't have to be home when they are there. I would be until I got to know the worker, and make sure things are going well. So that can be paid for by Medicaid. I don't even see a bill. Hospital, it can help pay for medical supplies, diapers, formulas and things, prescriptions, and it does cover the services you get from DSPD. It can also help with mental health, counseling, case management, evaluation cycle, all of those things. Medicaid can even help transport to medical or mental health appointments. There's a little paperwork to do, and there is some fairly limited, but nevertheless, some dental services that they pay for. I probably should move along. So your Medicaid outreach specialist for Alpine School District, it's Simone. Things are going to be a little different during the COVID time, because at this point they are all working from home. So depending on where you live, it will be a different outreach specialist. So we're going to move on to Voc-Rehab. Voc-Rehab is all things employment. I love working. I think it is a tremendous thing for our angels. It is the best respite there is. If you can find a great job match. I would love to see my daughter happy and excited to go to work and see her friends, or it makes them feel like everybody else. Mom goes to work, brothers and sisters go to work, dad goes to work, I go to work. It has just been a marvelous thing. I am very pro work. And yes, there are some things that can look different as far as Social Security and such, but it is doable. It is doable. I think it's important. If you are interested, even as early as age 14, they can start, because they're not going to run out and get your 14-year-old who is not verbal or significant disabilities. They're not going to run out and put them in a job right away. It takes quite a bit of time. So I would start early and get to know your Voc-Rehab counselor. There are separate counselors for transition. So when you want to apply, there's the Provo Voc-Rehab office. You would want to be clear that you would like a transition counselor. And then there's an application. It's a very simple, not hard to get the service. And even if they're 14, they would still do things with your child, like they would start the conversation of what would they be interested in doing. They could do little assessments on what do they enjoy. Do you like working inside? Do you like outside? Do you like it to be very quiet, or do you like to be around a lot of people? So there are a lot of pre-employment assessments that could be done that could take a long time. Your counselor for VR needs to get to know your child so that they can help get your child job ready. When they feel that they are job ready and they know the area of work, the work goal, what type of work they would like to do, they can make suggestions. They can help pay for training and programs and classes even. They can go to your child's IEP and just basically be ready to work. After they are found eligible and ready to work, and that could take years, I would always hope that to happen before they leave a post-secondary situation, so that there's not that drop off the cliff. They're suddenly done with school and they're sitting on the sofa 24/7. That is not my idea of a full enriched life. It would be nice if they could have, and it doesn't need to be a 40-hour-a-week job. It could be 2 hours twice a week. It could be, my daughter works 3 times a week for 6 hours. That's about all she could handle. So the Voc-Rehab counselor would write an individual plan for employment. Just to make us crazy, the acronym is IPE, too close to IEP, but that is when you and the counselor would talk about which company, a CRP company, would be chosen, and you can decide which company will actually help your child one-on-one find that job that would be a good fit and happy. You would want to consider transportation. How would they get to and from the job? Your Voc-Rehab counselor can help you work through all of those issues. Don't take that burden all on yourself, thinking you have to do it. Voc-Rehab counselors are ready and willing to help get you ready and get you to the company that will work one-on-one with your child finding that job. Voc-Rehab can help your child with medications, counseling, finding a job, and getting ready to interview for a job. They will help them learn their job. While they're looking for work, they can help with the transportation, meaning bus passes is what that technically is. I have had Voc-Rehab counselors even write vouchers to purchase interview clothes. If the child doesn't have appropriate clothing, and that has happened, I have been a CRP in the past. They have purchased tools, a lot of tools. I had an individual get a job at a bike shop, their dream job, and he needed his own tools. Voc-Rehab wrote the voucher that we then in turn purchased over $1,000 worth of tools for this young individual to help him with his job placement. So there's a variety of jobs and a variety. I have helped individuals who are nonverbal, some that could do very almost full-time jobs. The variety and the range is huge. There are very few instances that I can think of that we couldn't find something for that individual to do. There are different types of job coaching supported. There's a variety of different categories. It would take a whole webinar just for that. So we're going to go on to guardianship. There have been a lot of webinars about guardianships and trusts. I don't claim to be an expert. I do have guardianship of my daughter. At the time, I was just not in a frame of mind that I could deal with it. We all get into those times and places where I could handle no more. And so we hired a lawyer, one for us, one for my daughter, and we just got it done. That's just where I was at that point when she turned 18. However, recent feedback from other families have had wonderful experiences using the online court assistance program. The website is listed there, and I have helped individuals go through that, and it really wasn't bad at all. And the self-help line that is also listed there, if you get a little stuck, they were very responsive in helping. I even had one family who did it all online through OCAP, and they got a court date through OCAP, and they went with their son and had no lawyers. They were the only ones that didn't, and the judge didn't even seem to care. I hate to put my stamp on it, like, yes, that can be done, because technically I've heard you've got to have a lawyer and your child needs a lawyer. It changed for a year or two ago that just your child needed represented by a lawyer, but that was rescinded. But they've been kind of sliding him in there. So if finances are a huge issue, the self-help and OCAP, it takes an extra month or two to get a reduced fare, not reduced fare, a reduced lawyer that will not charge as much. So I have heard anywhere from free with taking your chance with no lawyer, which I don't recommend, but some have slid through that way recently, like in the last 2 weeks, to getting a lawyer through OCAP and with the help of the self-help resource for $350 to $500. If you do it before, I think the age is 22 or 23, your court costs go down from $360 for the court costs down to $35. So if you wait until they're older, that goes back up. So it's better to do it soon after they're 18 anyway. Trusts, I think there's one little thing I'd like to throw in there. They're all different. So one thing about a first party trust is if your child passes away, that trust goes back to government services to pay them back. It's not transferable to other family members. A third party trust, however, is. Able accounts, I'm not sure of about upon the death of your child. I haven't got an able account, so I'm really not familiar. But one big thing is make sure you have a conversation. You call grandmas and grandpas up and say, do not leave in your will money in your child's name. That will then disqualify them, or they will be found ineligible because of the asset limitation for Social Security. If they lose Social Security, they will then lose Medicaid. If they lose Medicaid, they will then lose DSPD. So they can leave money to your child. It just needs to be set up by a lawyer in a special needs trust. But there's been lots of webinars in a better, more specific way than I just explained. But that's for another day. I think it's really important as part of the transition plan to add things that your child loves to do. Different recreation. We want their lives to be full and happy and do things just like, well, it's not just like an average young adult, but things that they love to do. There are a lot of things that can be done in an adaptive way to help them be a part of the community. Recreation centers, I have lists of all kinds of things at different rec centers. Things are different with COVID. I'm so sorry. There's Special Olympics. United Angels has great teen nights and things. There's Best Bet buddy programs. That has been fun for my daughter, but keep in mind well, they have it in high school, they have it in colleges, but those buddies do move on to every semester. And if your child kind of gets attached to an individual, that is going to change every year or every semester. I've had a lot of fun. My daughter has at National Ability Center. That's in Park City. She has done camps and rope courses. She learned to ski at Park City. She doesn't love it, but she knows how to. But I think one of the best things that we did at National Ability Center, my daughter has no balance. She has cerebral palsy and hearing loss and intellectual disabilities, but she's always wanted to ride a bike. She would not even be able to lift her leg over a bike without losing her balance. So we made an appointment. They can modify anything. I'm not kidding. It is awesome. So we made an appointment for my husband and I and Katie to go to the National Ability Center to their bike barn. We had a marvelous, beautiful time for 45 minutes in their cycling section. They had bikes, hundreds of bikes for us to try. And she ended up with a recumbent bike, hot pink, Pepto-Bismol pink, and it has been the light of her life. She can go on any bike ride with any one of her buddies, and she loves that. And so she also can go on bike rides now with Wasatch Adaptive Sports. That's another agency. There are also special theater groups that are specific to people with disabilities and not. Accessible Utah is a website that has all kinds of things. They can go on high adventure rapids and canoeing and all kinds of things. There are special trails that are wheelchair accessible. There's Camp Custopolis. I haven't tried that one, but why not try some different things? Horseback, things they haven't done before. You can try it just like at National Ability Center. My daughter learned to ski for 4 years, and she says, I don't really like skiing. And I said, no, you love skiing because mom and dad got to ski free. I don't know if it's still that way. They can do Zumba, dance, performing arts. It'll look a little different. They may need a buddy to go with them. But I would suggest giving it a try. Kind of beat the bushes for some little thing to enrich their lives. Getting around town is an issue. If they have an IEP, they can get a reduced fare card, which would cover UTA transit, buses, tracks, and the front runner. And it's all half pay. You can do it, and you only do it once in your whole life, and they are good for half price forever after. There's also paratransit. They will only pick up from your home if you are 3/4 of a mile off a main bus route. If they get a job or just need to learn how to use UTA, most of the post-secondary schools will work on that with them, but there are actually UTA travel trainers that will come out and ride with them over and over and over till they get the hang of where to get off, how to do it in a safe manner. So I believe that is my little longer than I had anticipated. And I think I'm ready for questions. So Sylvia.
So folks, we have a small group here, and we invite you to turn on your microphone, and if you wish to turn on your camera and ask Debbie any questions. We'll just kind of try to take turns as we need to. If we feel like we need to use the chat, you can use the chat as well, but we invite you to use your microphone if you'd like.
I have a couple questions about Social Security.
Yes.
Even if they're still in school, as soon as they hit 18, you can apply for that?
Yes, absolutely. School has nothing to do with it. It is their age, if they are found to have a disability, and if their asset limitation is under, or if they have no assets under 2,000. Yeah.
What do they look at to consider assets? Is it just the bank account, or is it other things as well?
I have a list. They can have things like they're not going to come in your house and count furniture or video games. I have never had them ask me anything, to be honest. They've only looked at bank accounts. But I think if they had, boats and things that might have in their name, that might be an issue. I believe they can have one car. You can get on the website, or I can send you some examples of what is counted. But typically it appears to me, and for most families, to be what's in their bank accounts. And I guarantee they will find it. There is no hiding. They will find. I even had one family where grandma bought war bonds. I didn't even know they still had war bonds, but they found them. I don't think mom and dad even knew they had war bonds in their name, but that counted.
I guess. Sorry, my one question was just about a violin, because my son loves to play the violin, and violins get expensive very quickly. And can he have one in his name, or is that kind of not something they're going to really check on?
I haven't had them ask about musical instruments. I would have to double check that. I'm not sure they would know that he had a violin in his possession or in his name. If it were in your name and he's using it, that would be a different story. That's your violin, but he's using it. That would be, a different situation. I would have to triple check that, but right off the top of my head, I would guess that he probably did not save up the money for an expensive violin. So you could kind of work that the way.
Great, thank you.
You bet.
Debbie, we have a question from the chat feature here from Danielle Lambert. Hi, Debbie. It's Danielle from ATEC. Do you know anything about the transition program that Easter Seals offers? I believe it starts at 14, but I don't know much about it.
They do. They have several programs for Easter Seals. I am most familiar with their peer program, PEER. I think they do have some other programs at age 14, but the peer program I'm most familiar, which is where they get work experience, non-paid. So they would work at either Thanksgiving Point or Sarah Theaters doing work-related tasks, and they are paired with one-on-one with a trained individual about their age, and they do together those work-related things, and it has been very successful. Every family that has done the Easter Seal peer program have been very happy. It's and Voc-Rehab can pay for that, is my experience. I don't think if you work through Easter Seals and Voc-Rehab, they will pay for that. And it's a very good indication if your child is work ready. So that's one of their programs. If they have others, I'm not sure the specifics about some of the others, but it has been my experience. They've been wonderful.
Any other questions? Feel free to turn your mic on and join and start a conversation.
So I'm sorry if this is a repeat. I had to step out for a minute. With Voc-Rehab, how do we apply for that? Is that it's when they turn 14, I believe, but do we do it through the school district or just call somebody up online?
You don't have to. There is an application. It's a very simple application. I would be happy to forward that to you. And then with directions on, that's in my binder. I have each of these agencies tabbed with an action plan of how to do it. I explain what it is and how to do it. So you would get the application, and if you're in Utah County, you would call the Provo Voc-Rehab office, their main line, and ask for a transition counselor. And you would say, I would like to make an appointment to turn in the application. That would be step one.
Okay. And a follow-up to that is, what's a good time to meet with you and go through the transition binder? And how do we do that? Through United Angels or just calling you directly?
You can call me directly. That would be fine. I think my number, I just give it to you. You may need to leave a message. It's 801-318-4617. And you can also do it through United Angels. I've been doing it on FaceTime. I deliver the binder in person to your home. I'm not even sure where we are with social distancing, if we can meet once again or not one-on-one. But recently I've been doing it FaceTime or just over the phone. I deliver the binder to you, and then at your convenience and my time schedule, it takes about 2 hours. It's a lot of information. It's very specific. I made the binder up how I wish I would have had it when I was going through these processes for my daughter. So I did it from Debbie's point of view because it's a little intimidating to interact with some of these individuals at these agencies. So I give it to you from the perspective of another parent going through it. And I also change my binder often because these services and agencies often change. So just text me. I'll need your address. I'll deliver a book to your home. And then I don't love it to just have you do it on your own. I really love to go through it with you. I think it's much more effective to kind of chat through it together. But it is long. I mean, I can make it shorter if you want, but I would like it to be a real help. And I think the best way to help is to go through it together.
For everyone, the chat feature, Debbie's email, her Debbie at unitedangels.org is listed in the chat, as well as her phone number. So if you missed it, that information is there. And United Angels Foundation has a transition to adulthood program that is primarily Debbie doing these free one-on-one consultations with you. And as Debbie said, she has a binder that gets updated frequently with new information. I've seen the binder. It is just a wealth of information, and she will go through all of this with you. It is a complimentary service for being a part of the foundation. And then, Debbie, there's two questions from the chat. I'll ask the first one here from Wendy. I was told to apply for supplemental security income for my child, not social security income. Is there a difference?
There are several different types of Social Security. SSI is for those who have no work history. SSDI, it's a misnomer because Social Security disability insurance, yes, my child has a disability, so they are SSDI. Nope, SSDI is for those who have worked and paid into the system, and now they have become disabled and need to pull that back out. That's SSDI. Most of those in transition do not have a work history, so they are applying for SSI. Now, there are other things as well. They could be pulling from their parents' income if their parent is deceased or has retired. There are different types of Social Security. I just didn't go into that in detail right now because I could spend an hour on each one of these. So we can do that during a consult though. So you would normally be applying for SSI.
Debbie, our next question from the chat is from Brooke. Brooke asks, how does a job affect Social Security benefits?
That's a very good question. There are different ways that the 783 could be reduced. One is through in-kind support and maintenance, meaning if you don't charge rent, that will reduce. If it could be increased, depending on the parent, if they are deceased or if they've retired. And working can change it, but not if they are a student. As long as they are a student, they get the support employment exemption. So as long as so that's an incentive to stay with the school, even in the post-secondary, because it allows them to earn up to 1,700 and something a month. And because of the SEIE, its acronym, it will not affect their Social Security. Now, once they are not in a student, there's a formula. It's quite involved. It involves 9 trial work periods, and after you exhaust those, and I think there's another gimme month in there, then it can start to reduce. For every $2 they earn, $1 will be a reduced out of their monthly income. There's a 2-month delay, so it won't be an immediate. It'll take 2 months to catch up. There is a wonderful place to go to learn how working will affect their Social Security check. It's called Utah Work Incentive Planning Service. Your Voc-Rehab counselor can also talk you through how working will affect your Social Security. But I can guarantee that you will always be ahead by working. If it reduces your Social Security check a little bit, so be it. Because it's, in my opinion, always better to work some. It is quite an involved formula. But if you learn the rules, it's very doable. My daughter has worked for 14 years, and we have not lost one dime of Social Security because I learned the rules and I follow them exactly. And there are forms and things that a process that you would go through, but it is doable. And yes, it could affect once they are not a student.
Thanks, Debbie. I've got 2 more questions here in the chat. At what age do you recommend parents set up the appointment with you to go through the transition binder?
I think right away, because even if they're not, 16, 17, 18 for sure, if they're that age, because it's nice to dream a dream, because this can give you things to think about that you will be able to enjoy and look forward to at all the possibilities there are for your child. And I think it's a more optimistic way. So if your child, I've done it as young as 2 or 3 years old. Granted, the programs will probably change here and there as they grow older. But as a parent, I wish I would have known that all of these things were out there. The first time I heard, I charge my child rent, that's weird. I'm not going to do it. But as you get used to these types of things, and then when it's time, it won't be so awkward and odd. So I think it's worth doing whenever you would like to. It's just a nice way to paint a picture of an optimistic future. And a little bit of a relief for parents to know that they can get some help all along the way. And remember, you should do DSPD at birth. So that's one of the biggies that I work with, is getting you on that DSPD wait list.
And Debbie did a great presentation on DSPD that we actually have on the United Angels Foundation YouTube channel. It's a very in-depth presentation. It's probably about 45 minutes, maybe close to an hour. I put a link to that in our chat. And then let's see, we have another question here from Julie Simpson. What age should you apply for Medicaid? Is it their 18th birthday as well, or can you begin before their birthday?
That depends on if they have a significant medical need. If you're just being swallowed up by medical bills, family to family, or there's some different organizations that can help you. But if there are not big medical issues, it's quite easy to get on once they are on Social Security. But you can do it before. It's just based on their medical needs at that earlier than 18. So if you're okay medical financially with their medical needs, and they're covered under insurance, 18 and on Social Security will make it pretty easy. So that's kind of an individual circumstance and where you personally are with medical coverage.
Thanks, Debbie. We have another question here from the chat. This question is from Natalie. How can having your child serve an LDS service mission impact all of this?
Oh, it's awesome. My daughter did one. We did it while she was working, while she was in school. It depends on the mission. She's living at home. It should not affect her Social Security. It's awesome. It doesn't affect DSPD. My daughter still needed the same services because she lived at home and she served and still had downtime that I needed services from. So it didn't change anything. But if it's something a little more specific as to which agency you're speaking about, I'd be happy to address that specifically. But overall, won't matter. Unless they move away, then that would.
Do we have any other questions for Debbie? Feel free to put them in the chat window right here, or if you'd like to turn your mic on and ask. Okay, final call here for any other questions. We do have Debbie's phone number and her email address in the chat window, as well as some information on how to sign up for your complimentary one-on-one consultation with Debbie. And she said that she can do these over the phone, over FaceTime, and bring the binder to your house. This is a great service. We highly encourage you to take advantage of Debbie's expertise, her experience, not only as a professional, but as a parent. That just makes this a very personal and very approachable way to get started here. And then if you wanted to learn more about DSPD in depth and want to watch another presentation from Debbie, I did put a link to her YouTube video in the chat window as well. Debbie, any final thoughts?
I know it's an overwhelming task, all this transition stuff, but I'm happy to break it down piece by piece. Don't be afraid. I'll help you. That's it.
All right. Thank you so much, Debbie. I always love listening to you present. I think you make this information so easy to understand and so accessible. I did email out the slides. If anyone is looking for that, or if you have a friend that did not catch this, I'm happy to email them a recording of the presentation and the slides. And we want to thank you for joining us and have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you.